When you look at Antarctica from high above, all you really see is just endless, blinding white, right? You don't hear birds, you don't see any plants. It looks completely empty and frankly, utterly lifeless. But there is a massive, hidden mystery lying right beneath that seemingly innocent surface. Welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into the incredible science of Antarctic drilling to uncover what is actually hiding down there in the freezing dark.
To really get why this is so mind-blowing, we've got to rewind a bit to 1970. A group of scientists started drilling into the ice, and they just kept going and going for 28 years. After nearly 4,000 meters, they hit something everyone thought was impossible: liquid water, a secret underground lake totally sealed off from the rest of the world for a staggering 15 million years. Think about that number for a second. 15 million years of total isolation. No sunlight, no fresh air. How is that even scientifically possible? And, the even bigger question, is there something actually alive in there, just evolving entirely on its own?
Okay, let's dive into this. To truly understand what happens when you drill 4,000 meters into the most isolated place on Earth, we first have to wrap our heads around the sheer terrifying scale of this ice. We are not just talking about a thick blanket of snow here. If you took a chunk out of the ice sheet at its thickest point and just dropped it on the ground, it would be almost the height of Mount Kilimanjaro. You literally have to stack the tallest building in the world 6 times just to reach the top. It's absolutely wild.
Which brings us to Section 1, Mapping the Hidden Continent.
You see, you can't just drill blindly. As this gigantic ice sheet builds up its own weight, it's actually slowly flowing across the rocky ground beneath it, moving toward the coasts. And as it moves, it stretches and contracts. If it stretches a little too fast, the ice actually snaps underneath, creating these massive hidden crevasses beneath the seemingly flat surface. It's a total logistical nightmare. But as our drill begins its physical descent past those dangers, the material we're cutting through changes drastically. Step 1 is loose snow, which is actually pretty rare since Antarctica is technically a desert. Well, actually scratch that, it barely gets any precipitation at all, so it's a very dry desert. But as we go deeper, that snow gets compressed into Step 2, which we call Firn. Firn is basically this highly dense frozen sponge. And finally, under all that immense weight, it fully squishes down into Step 3, completely solid ice.
So how do scientists actually know what they're drilling into if it's all buried? Well, as mapping methods brilliantly evolved, this whole new picture emerged. Back in the 1950s, scientists were literally blowing up TNT on the surface to measure the seismic waves bouncing back up through the ice. Today, we use satellite lasers to track tiny wrinkles or sagging on the surface. But for the real under-ice details, scientists fly planes equipped with ice-penetrating radar. They crisscross the continent and they've revealed an ancient hidden world down there. We're talking trenches deeper than the Grand Canyon and a mountain range that rivals the European Alps, all of it buried beneath the ice.
With our map in hand, we enter Section 2, Drilling Through Earth's History. And this brilliantly illustrates what happens as our drill pushes deeper and deeper down that hole. As we go through that spongy firn and into the solid ice, the intense pressure squishes the tiny pores closed. The air inside gets locked in place, creating these microscopic bubbles. And these bubbles? They act like perfectly preserved time capsules of the atmosphere from the exact moment that ice formed. So as we drill downward, we are literally traveling backward through major eras of our planet's history. We pass through the exact atmosphere breathed during the Renaissance, we go deeper and hit the Roman Empire, down past ancient Egypt, all the way past the extinction of the Neanderthals tens of thousands of years ago. It's like a giant puzzle. You can actually read the ice core like tree rings. You can even see these thick, dark lines of ash trapped in the ice from volcanic eruptions that went off over 20,000 years ago.
But the records go back way, way further than that. Just look at this staggering figure, 1.3 million. A European science team recently pulled up an ice core containing an astounding 1.3 million years of the planet's climate history. That is the longest continuous history of Earth's climate we have ever captured in ice, and scientists are in the lab analyzing it right this very minute. It is literally the ultimate historical archive.
Let's keep going deeper. We're now in Section 3, the subglacial plumbing system.
When you get about 2 miles down, well, roughly 3,500 meters, things change dramatically. The ice is no longer full of those ancient bubbles or volcanic dust. It becomes perfectly, remarkably clear, like you could read a book through it. And that's because this ice isn't coming from compressed snow falling from above, it's actually freezing upward from a massive subglacial lake sitting right below it. Which brings us to the fundamental scientific question of this explainer. How on earth is there liquid water under miles of freezing ice? Decades of radar and seismic data pointed to a body of water called Lake Vostok. Just to give you a sense of scale, Lake Vostok is similar in size to Lake Ontario. By volume, it's the 6th largest lake in the entire world, just sitting there entirely in liquid form under a frozen wasteland. No way, right?
Well, here are the two incredible scientific reasons why this exists. First, those miles of ice above act as a giant thermal blanket, and they trap the heat that naturally radiates up from Earth's core. Second, sitting under all that ice creates roughly 350 times more pressure than what you feel at sea level. Basic physics dictates that as pressure rises, and again, think about 350 times the pressure you feel right now, water actually stays liquid at much lower temperatures. And it doesn't stop with Vostok. Dr. Helen Fricker made this absolute jaw-dropping discovery using satellite data. She found that the ice sheet actually lifts and drops in places. She realized there isn't just one lake, but hundreds of active lakes connected by an under-ice plumbing system, constantly filling and draining into one another.
Knowing they're down there is amazing, but actually reaching them? Welcome to Section 4, How to Pierce a Lake.
We have these highly pressurized lakes that have been totally untouched for millions of years. So scientists had to figure out how to sample these pristine subglacial lakes without instantly contaminating them or, worse, causing a deadly disaster for the team on the ice. Dr. John Priscu, one of the first scientists to study Lake Vostok, perfectly summarized the danger here. He said, if you take a Pepsi bottle and you put in a Mentos, it just blows up. So that's what we're looking at. Piercing the roof of a highly pressurized lake could trigger a massive blowout. You could literally have an under-ice volcano of ancient lake water shooting rapidly up the drill hole. Talk about high stakes.
So how did different international teams tackle this? This comparison is super fascinating. The Russian team had a head start, but their drill hole was already filled with kerosene to keep it from freezing shut. They used a heavier Freon plug with a heated tip to melt into the lake. When they finally broke through, that highly pressurized water shot 30 meters up the hole, violently mixing with the toxic kerosene drill fluid. Their claim of discovering new bacteria was hugely controversial because of that exact contamination. Conversely, the American and British teams used a completely different technology: super clean, pressurized boiling water that was filtered and decontaminated with UV light. No toxic fluids at all, just pure hot water blasting the ice away.
And that pristine method brings us to the ultimate payoff. Section 5, Discovering Alien Life Below.
When the American team finally used their clean hot water drill to slowly break through into the lake, an entire roar of cheers went up in the camp. Researchers described literally getting goosebumps. They brought up a sample of liquid water from this completely isolated lake, and inside, they found life. Tons of it. So the crucial point is what they actually pulled up. They didn't just find a few stray cells, they found a complete subglacial ecosystem. We're talking thriving colonies of unique bacteria and tiny organisms surviving entirely without a single drop of sunlight. In 2018, they sampled the sediment as well, and researchers discovered genuinely new isolated bacteria and viruses, life forms entirely different from anywhere else on Earth.
But here is the fascinating reality. The new life we find is actually very old life. See, Antarctica wasn't always covered in a massive sheet of ice. Millions of years ago, it was completely exposed. So these highly unique microbes, adapting and surviving in the extreme dark for eons, offer us a rare, completely untouched window into the ancient biological history of our planet. It is old life that is completely new to us.
Which leads us to a thrilling, thought-provoking conclusion. The brilliant, ultra-clean engineering used to drill safely through thick Antarctic ice is the exact same technology we're going to need to explore icy planets and moons in space. So, if an entire ecosystem of life can survive here, in the coldest, darkest, most highly pressurized and alien place on Earth, could it survive on icy moons like Jupiter's Europa? Finding this vibrant hidden world under Antarctica might just be our very first rehearsal for discovering extraterrestrial life out there in the cosmos. I'll leave you to think on that. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring.